So we got Dick Masterson, someone I've wanted on the show for a long time. He's got an excellent podcast over there, thedickshow.com. I know not everybody's familiar with it. First of all, thanks for coming on.
Thank you guys for having me. This is like a well-oiled machine, watching three guys cooperate to make a podcast happen. That's foreign to me. I'm only used to active sabotage on a podcast and constant conflict. This is refreshing.
We keep that behind the scenes. There's just a real knockdown drag out before every show. Yeah.
It took me a while from watching the podcast you used to be on, the biggest issues in the multiverse or whatever.
Yeah, that was it.
It took me a while to realize that drama between you and Maddox and arguing, that wasn't part of the show. That was him not understanding things that you were saying. And it took me 10 to 20 episodes to figure that out.
No, if you want to jump right into that, I'll tell you that podcast came about because we would go out to lunch or whatever, and we'd have those arguments. And I was like, look, man, I'm not having these arguments for free anymore. We gotta put this on the internet and try to monetize it in some way, because this is just a waste of time. Like, I don't get anything out of this.
No, and he doesn't change his mind, so it doesn't matter.
Nobody does.
Tears.
So the way that a lot of people come across you, at least on YouTube, searching Dick Masterson, it shows your old trolling of Dr. Phil, Tyra, all those old shows. And this isn't recent. This is like 2007, 2008, like that kind of area.
2008. Yeah.
Can you walk us through that? It was like being on those shows and having to basically semi-pretend with all the producers and all the other idiots on the programs.
Oh my God! So I could talk about that for hours. I have a podcast. I got a Patreon behind it. One of the episodes, I just tell the entire story of Dr. Phil. But that was little pluggerino there. I had been doing the Men Are Better Than Women website for a long time as a satire. Like, I think now when you look at it, it's obvious what it is. But it started when there wasn't even a Facebook, like 2005. People didn't. Nobody knew what the internet was. Go ahead. What was that?
And to be fair, yeah, it also seemed to start. You were one of the original trolls, not an internet troll. You were a television troll, sort of, right? But you're one of the original internet trolls for sure. Back before people could spot them. Nowadays, it's easy to spot the troll. They're just hyperbole. You can't believe how ignorant he is about a topic. You're like, oh, let me set him straight. But you were the original.
I think trolling too used to mean it used to mean something. Now trolling means you just act like an asshole and people get upset. But at least when I did it, I wanted people to be able to look at it and say, no, that guy's not an idiot. He's making people who are idiots react to it in such a way to expose themselves. Because they're hiding. The idiots are hiding among us, like pod people, and you can't argue with them because they argue just like normal people. You've got to bait them out into just starting to froth at the mouth, and that's when they start changing, like that Rick and Morty episode with the brain parasites. That's when they show their true colors. And like, aha, you are arguing with a cartoon character on the internet. You are the idiot. Yeah. That's what trolling. You got to give somebody a way out on trolling. Like, there's always got to be that little shred of disbelief in your trolling. You can't just go out and say and just take the most horrific position on something possible just to piss people off. That's not trolling to me. It might be funny, but it's not trolling.
That's what trolling is nowadays, it seems. Yeah. Where it's just people who aren't ballsy enough to commit to a joke, and so they go, okay, if I make the joke under the auspices of trolling, then I have a free out when someone goes, that wasn't funny and it's not even clever. You go, well, I was just trolling, so actually you're the fool for engaging me. And it's like, what? No, you just aren't confident enough to make a joke, so you hide behind in your lair of trolling.
Yeah. Then that's why I started doing the site, because it was so rewarding to see people absolutely lose their minds. Like, I had some article on menarbetterthanwomen.com that was like it was the most asinine article title possible. It was the top 10 reasons men are better than women. And it had 120,000 comments on it. People sitting there back, this was back when that meant something. It might still mean something. I don't know.
That's a lot of comments. And I admire that was back when people were less hardened to clickbait. Because top 10 reasons men are better than women is the 2017 title of something. Yeah.
As far as using something to like coax out an idiot, now I guess ex-girlfriend of mine bought me your book a year or so ago, and we would have it out when people would come over, just like not coffee table, just kind of on a shelf somewhere. And it was guaranteed. Like I would forget it was there because just another book on the shelf. But every time girls would come over, they would immediately notice it. And if they were drunk, they would open it and immediately expose the fact that they had no understanding that it was satire. They'd be like, look at this whole chapter is called Women Can Barely Read. I'm reading it right here. This isn't fair. There's an infographic of a woman struggling to read. And it's just like, God, you really don't get it? Well, you're really clearly labeling yourself as someone who can't take a joke and isn't fun to be around. So that's like second level trolling.
That was
great.
When I just had the website. I bought the website because I worked at some startup company where it was right when domain names went from being like $80 to $15. I don't know. I feel like an old grandpa telling the story. Like back in my day, domains cost $80. So everybody in the office went on this offensive domain buying spree, and I bought that one as a laugh. The same thing happened. My buddy, my life coach, every time we would get in new mixed company, he would drop that bomb. Like, hey, this guy owns menarbetterthanwomen.com. What do you think about that? Sure enough, somebody'd always bite. There'd always be
a conversation starter.
Yeah.
But did it help you weed through people? Like if a chick heard that and she gave you a laugh or a certain response where you kind of like, all right, you've passed the first preliminary test and not getting
it still does. It still does. Everybody's got a weird reaction to it. Like Tinder coming along made it painfully obvious the different stages of reactions women will have, and anybody for that matter, but specifically women will have to the website and to the book being around. Like there's the immediate recognition of it as a joke, the God tier, and then there's the I'm willing to tolerate the joke, and then there's the I need to explain it in terms I understand. Like, okay, I can see how you're actually doing this is actually very feminist. I'm like, all right, well, whatever you need to call it. It's a joke. It's a joke.
So you're saying this happens when you meet a lady and she like Googles your name to see like what you're all about, and she finds men are better than women.com or whatever?
That is a point of peril. The bigger point of peril is when their moms do it.
Ooh. Yeah.
I dated one girl whose mom already knew about me because she was a huge Dr. Phil fan. Which was
not
fun.
going well from the start.
No.
Yeah, I just watched like a 2.5-minute video of you talking like like in a private conversation seemingly with Dr. Phil, and he's just like, well, why are you taking these positions? Like he just doesn't get it. Like, he doesn't
Did Dr.
understand.
Phil know you were a troll? Because I saw him and he's like, people are going to think this is a plant, but this guy is legit.
It was really weird. Sorry, I interrupted you. What was the rest of the question?
That was really the end of it. Like, I want to know if Dr. Phil was going along with it or where he is on the spectrum.
Well, and as it turned out, at the end of the Dr. Phil show, which I was on for like 5 days, I think when they aired it, it was obvious that he would make the most money. He would make way more money from that than I ever could, because all of my quotes were the lead-ins, like all the ads on the radio, which is like, you got to watch Dr. Phil to see what this son of a bitch has to say. And it was me saying a line that I would sit around I had like lived in a frat house with 2 other guys being 25 years old, and we would get shit-faced, and they would tell me what topic to use for my article that I would have to write that night. So I'd be like, all right, guys, give me an article for Men and Brother Women. I got to write it. I got Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I got to write it. My roommate would say, do all women are lesbians? Like, all right, I got to write that somehow. So I would write it, post it, and that would it was nothing. You never thought the internet was permanent then. Now you get shit on the internet. It's like piss in a swimming pool. You know that shit's not going away. But back then it was like this is just, I'm just stapling this on a telephone pole in the middle of nowhere. It's never going to matter. It's never going to affect my real life. Then I'm on Dr. Phil, and he's reading, you think all women are lesbians? And I'm like, fucking Jeff said that, Dr. Phil. Like, I didn't say that. And so I'm sitting there, I'm like, this is 60 fucking million people watch this shit internationally, and I'm defending my drunk idiot roommates. There's another one, women don't believe in magic. The same guy. Like, all right, women don't believe in magic. That's going to be a tough one. That's going to be a tough one for me to prove, but I'm going to give it my best shot. And then sure enough, thousands of people would comment about how I'm an idiot because I'm saying that women think magic is actually real. That was the surreal moment where I felt like that. I felt like the man on the other side of the moon. You know, the loneliest man in the world, because I'm like, nobody else can appreciate the joke of this except for me.
Are you married?
Like, what's that?
I'm just hoping that you're married all this time. No, probably not.
No, I had a great girlfriend that we practically lived together. She loved it. Great, beautiful British girl. Very classy.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I wasn't married. I don't know how that rumor got started. Somehow, if you Google my name, like Google suggest says Dick Masterson space, and then it will pop up married. I'm like, so every single chick who's ever Googled me that I've been dating, the first question, so are you married or what? What's this about? I'm like, oh, thanks, Google. Yeah. Thanks a lot for the continued cock blocking.
So, look, that's all about people everywhere wondering if a man like you, if there's a woman attached to the most misogynistic man in the world. Yeah. That's
who I'd like.
Going crazy.
That Matt from Demolition Ranch. Do you guys know him?
Yeah.
You've probably seen his videos. He's got a daily vlog now where he shows himself and his family, but he first got big by running a gun channel where he'd shoot things on his ranch, and he's also a veterinarian.
FPS Russia?
That guy? That's me.
That's Kyle. It's similar to FPS Russia, though. And I don't know. I watch his stuff now and then. I don't watch every video he puts out, but I enjoy his content. He seems like a neat guy. So he might be my current dream guest.
I'd like to get Bill Burr. That'd be great.
That'd be really cool. Yeah. Dick, you knew that that Kyle is FPS Russia, right? With all the guns and whatnot?
I think I've probably watched that more than any other online video, except for those gallon smashing kids.
If you go on the PKA Reddit, there's a ton of people who were talking about weight loss and success. So there you go, Woody. You just take credit for that.
Yeah, but Woody, those guys could have been like 800 pounds, probably. You don't know. 30 pounds, nothing to them.
You'd be surprised.
You'd think.
Hard.
I would be surprised if they lost. Well, I don't know. I don't really know how this works. Oh my gosh! And I've said this so many times that like nutrition and fitness advice has changed so much over my 4.5 decades that whatever's current just feels like bullshit that's soon to be debunked as well. This keto thing, like, oh yeah, you want most of you eat bacon and red meat all the time, and your body will just pour out fat because it has more fat than it knows what to do with. And I'm like, I guess like everything else has been horseshit up to now. I guess this will be horseshit in 2025. But.
It's just like a rebranded and slightly changed. Like in the early 2000s, like Atkins was enormous. Yeah.
And then paleo.
And they were like, how are people losing weight on Atkins? Like they're still eating until they're full. Well, I don't know, idiot. It's because they're cutting out a third of the things that are available to eat. They're not eating carbs. So of course they're going to lose weight. Like then South Beach came along. Same fucking thing, just a slightly different tweak of how much you're supposed to be eating, but still no carbs. And then paleo came around, and then ketogenic came around. It's all just little twists on the same low carb thing.
Stupid juice diets.
The juice like diets cayenne pepper.
Well, there's like companies that sell like a juice that you like have to like buy and sign up for, and you're like, yeah, just drink our juice and you'll be fine. Like all of that shit. It's
100% food. The sponsor we had that dropped us because we made fun of him too bad for being stupid. All right, I made fun of him too bad. Fuck me. It was a stupid product. Yeah.
People though apparently that's good stuff and not good tasting stuff. That's different. But apparently that's a good product that people are having success with. Like I read about it independently later on. And I'm not just saying that because they sponsored us and dropped us for making fun of him. My wife Like, so she got the chocolate, and then she like sliced up strawberries and put it in there, and like along the ridge of the glass. I couldn't choke that shit down. It was. I don't know how is something liquidy taste so powdery? It's like a milkshake that hasn't grown up yet or something.
Yeah, I think it's because they don't put like the emulsifiers that you might find in a normal powdered type water kind of thing that help it like dissolve and like become a homogeneous thing. They're all super natural and like no additives and stuff. So you're just mixing some sort of powdered food in with water, and it just doesn't happen. It always tasted bad. And the worst part, like the ones that I had, or at least one of them that I had these big seeds in there, like
chia seeds.
Chia seeds.
I don't know what they are
for sure. I don't either. I've never seen a is that
from real chihuahuas?
Chia. Is that what those are? I feel that's what they taste like. It feels like I'm eating the seeds that make a chia pet grow.
Probably.
They were awful, and they don't dissolve, of course, because it's a big fucking seed that you could pick out and like away.
When you drink it, like like if you drink chocolate milk, the last gulp of chocolate milk is all the syrup and stuff. Like it's the best gulp. Well, it's quite the opposite with 100% food. The last gulp is like seeds and powder that didn't dissolve. You really got to work that one. Yeah.
You can replant the last gulp and grow a new shake.
But
they got rid of our reviews. You remember how they used to have reviews up there? Of I think I said they had me quoted on there. I said this shit tastes like Quickcrete. And they took it down. I guess it wasn't helping sell. It's
not what they were looking for.
They gave me so many, like, because back in the day, I used to get like most of the swag for the group, and I had like 144 bottles of this stuff. Now that I think about it, I could have made like a patio if I wanted to, but I didn't think of it.
You don't have to wait for the government to fix potholes anymore. Just take it on your own volition.
Yeah.
Damn, man. 100% food smooth. That's nice. Yeah.
All the seeds float to the bottom, and the top is smooth. It's great.
Woody, if you feel like you're not living up to your host responsibility for losing, you got to pick your trademark muscle group. Instead of trying to beat everybody number-wise, you've got to be like the traps guy or the tricep guy.
The calf guys.
Or the calf guy. I'm the curls guy.
Are
I
you?
Want to do curls? Yeah, all day. That's the only one I'll do. I don't care what's going on. I can do curls forever. It'll take threat of arrest for me to do a leg day one time, but curls I will always do.
I haven't told this story in like 5 years, but here's where it came from. At the time, I was in like 3 ice hockey leagues. And I just have big calves, like I always have. My father's are way better than mine, but I've got like unusually strong calves. And I'm a computer programmer, and this Indian guy comes up and he sits next to me. He works in quality assurance, so I assume he found a bug and he wants me to either fix it or delegate it to someone that works for me. And he sits down and he's not talking about work at all. He just says, "Your calves are amazing." And I'm like, what? Like, what is it? He's like, your calves. And I wore shorts to work because I was like computer programmer privilege. And he's like, sometimes, like if you walk in late to a meeting or something, I just watch your calves as you take your seat. And then he wants advice. He's like, how did you get those calves? And I'm like, I don't know. I walk places, play hockey, and there is no like real wrap up to this story. Like the conversation didn't end cleanly. He was just like, yeah, those calves, and like that's where it cuts. And since then, my calves have, like, if I live stream playing video games, the chat will be like, show the calves, and I do. I stand on the table, show the calves, and yeah.
You still got them? I want to see them now.
Let me see what I can do.
I want to see the calves now.
Test this table.
In my country, we have legend of calves the size of yours. The sacred cow is a calf is very important.
All right. How are we doing?
Oh, don't you fall.
Oh, the fucking camera is just... Hold on. I'm going to lower both these.
Just always with the cargo shorts ready for battle.
I see. Those are powerful calves.
Yeah,
those are caber toss calves, man.
They're very.
You got the ass in the calf, where it cuts up into an ass calf. I could only dream of having that.
They used to be better.
You got that calf cleavage that people get, where like the muscle is so big, it's like, well, we can't stay here. Let's just kind of make a heart. You gotta keep packing muscle into this little space.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what you do. Just keep.
My father's calves are way better than mine. Like I was walking behind him at Disney World once, and every fucking step.
Wait, how old were you? Were you a kid or were you like an adult?
Like 35. And I'm sitting here looking at his calves, and every step they like unflex and reflex. So they're just like, hump, 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 right? Like and I'm just like, oh my God, like these are unnaturally strong calves. And I like people like my calves, but they are a diluted version. Like I've got mom mixed in there. If I had my dad's calves, they would be unbeatable.
Did you ever get resentful about your mom's shitty calves? Like, God, Mom, look what could have been, you fat sow. Like, taking a little bit of confidence.
Oh, it just, she's a normal person.
Looking at his calves, like you look up and he's giving you that look over his sunglasses, like, take a look. Oh, why don't you take a picture, son? His calves go all the way up.
So that's my muscle group. There now.
Yeah, man, post your calf gains. Just only do calf work every time you go in.
Oh, but one other issue, like, and you might feel the same thing sometimes, but like, you're on the internet, you do something that is good, right? Not great, but like, hey, look, I'm good at this. There's always a million people out there better than you. Like, if I start tweeting my calves, I'm gonna get pictures back from people who are really extraordinary, who make my game look weak. All right, I got a topic. Attorney General Sessions charts course back to longer drug sentences. He wants to take people to the top end of the mandatory minimum sentencing laws.
Man. Well, he knows what's right.
Not in this case. I don't like that at all.
Alabama justice. That's what this country needs.
If there was one thing to make me turn my back on Trump, it is this Sessions going after drug shit. He could have ignored it.
Mm-hmm.
He could have eased it. He could have been a big talker and just not done anything. But if those guys go after drugs, it's going to be the end. Our insane war on drugs has cost us so much money and so much human life, so many human hours. It would be a huge disappointment.
And our war on drugs, of course, creates those billionaire despots down south of the border. Like, there's no reasons for us to know about a guy named El Chapo. All right? Nope. The only reason we know about that fucker is because of our war on drugs that made him a billionaire. Made him one of the richest men on the planet.
That whole thing. Like, we created that path for him to be like, oh, well, there's a beautiful little power vacuum here. I think I'm going to take advantage of it. You know, like, we set it up for him.
Yeah, cocaine's not worth shit. You know what cocaine's worth? Like in Colombia, if you want some cocaine, it's not worth shit. It's not worth
like
shit.
Pixie sticks there.
Every step you take north of Colombia, that cocaine is getting much more valuable every time you get to a country higher. The closer it gets to the United States, it's like $20,000 a kilo, right? So like it's roughly $10,000 a pound or something like that. So. But when you're in Colombia, it's just pennies because it's not worth fucking shit. It's not worth anything.
You think people in Colombia do a huge amount of coke because it's so cheap?
Probably not, right? Because I think maybe in the U.S. it was especially in the 80s, right? It's kind of prestigious thing. A lot of Wall Street guys were doing it because it was expensive, probably as much as because they liked the high. Whereas there, it's this like incredibly cheap random thing like caffeine.
Like, cocaine is as popular as it used to be because with Adderall and with ADD medicine coming about.
Cocaine is coming back. I've noticed that. Like there wasn't any coke when I was like 20, but like by the time I was 25, 28 in there, like there was coke everywhere.
I can never get a vibe for how dangerous a drug is, right? Like when I was in high school, I didn't do drugs, but pot, of course, is popular. Pot's always been popular, but is it LCD? It's not LSD. LSD on little paper tabs were very popular.
LSD is one of the safest ones.
And mushrooms were very popular. I think mushrooms, I just read recently, is the most safest. They you've heard that too. Yeah, they were ranking the drugs by the per capita visits to the emergency room. Like how many people tried it ended up in the ER. And
they need to also in that count have things like ridiculous visits. Like if somebody gets really high on pot and they show up like, I feel like, you know, my eyes are going to fall out. They're so dry. And they're like, get out of here. Here's some Visine. Like that shouldn't count against pot, you know?
Yeah.
Like it was just somebody freaking out.
Well, there's never been a marijuana death ever.
Yeah, it should be medical emergencies.
There have been people who got high and did stupid stuff and died, but it's not like, you know, you overdosed on pot.
But so when I was a kid, LSD and mushrooms on top of pot. Now I feel like it's cocaine, pot, and opioids, maybe.
Those are real bad.
Like Vicodin, cauliflower, or what did Rush Limbaugh call his drugs?
Oh,
cabbages. Sorry. Cabbage. I need some more cabbages. That's why I'm not hearing anything now.
You know, that's why his hearing went, right? It was from the opiate use.
Yeah.
That fucking cunt.
Can you imagine how hard it was for Rush Limbaugh to take a shit for years? Like that guy
that's
taking
why
that
so
many painkillers and eating as much as he does. Like it must have been a grueling endeavor every day as he's preparing to end that 3 hour show.
I imagine him on like a hover slide, like Jabba the Hutt, and he just gets schlepped around, chugging down the Mexican.
The stain where he went, like a wet spot. You can tell he's been there.
How bad is cocaine for you? Because during its comeback, when I was a kid, they acted like cocaine was heroin. Like it was, you know, they had
It's very addictive, and it will fuck up your heart.
You can inject cocaine. You can make.
We had a guy come to my high school that could put something through his nostril and out the other side. Apparently, cocaine had burnt the middle out, the septum.
Yeah, that's from
I saw somebody on Jackass do that with a condom. Oh, you know what? That's a good point to the coke use, actually. You know, that actually doesn't make sense.
But no drug is as dangerous as tobacco and alcohol. That's the most dangerous drugs are the ones that are completely legal. Tobacco, alcohol, and every single prescription drug that they just gin up out of a computer and then patent and say, here, this will cure your depression. Oh, it makes a bunch of people suicidal.
They were already depressed. You can't blame me. Yeah.
All the ones that are illegal and funding the enormous war are just like either a competitor to, you know, everybody. Like the weed, the war against weed is it's fundamentally racist to control Mexicans and blacks who were way more into weed because it's free and a different kind of high than liquor, and a competitor to, and hemp is a competitor to, like, you know, everything, like every kind of textile we got. So we got to wipe this out. And then you got all the fun drugs, all the MDMA, LSD, who are just like, nobody's going to fight them because it's just a couple people doing them, but they're not dangerous. It's so frustrating to hear.
Yeah, some of those things are just mind expanding. They just give you an experience with no negative side effects, or they don't make you you don't lose control of yourself the next day. You're not a crazy person now. You don't have physical symptoms. And even with the cocaine, like it requires cocaine abuse to get that nose thing. That's years of heavy use that most people can't even afford, right? Because it was very expensive back then.
I had this
remember that
casual friend
video?
in high school. Let me do this real quick. And we went off to college, and then like after our freshman year, you know, we find ourselves back in our hometown. And he said that he did a ton of LSD, that he flunked out of college, and that he was catching trails. So now he's working construction, and like if you'd hit like a nail and it would fling off in like the direction, he'd see it like 5 times, like zoom, 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 zoom. And he attributed that to the LSD, like at least temporarily, kind of fucking his brain up.
I've heard about stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've also heard, like, I remember it was either a video or a teacher that told me during class where they were like, ecstasy, which it makes holes in your brain. Like, I'm sure everybody's heard that, where it's like, the example was like, it's like taking an ice cream scoop and pulling out a chunk of your brain when you use ecstasy. And then when, like, you meet people that have done ecstasy and they don't have big scoops of their brain missing, you just start to do the thing that kids do where you're like, well, maybe heroin isn't that bad. Maybe it was just a big kerfuffle that these, you know, sticks in the mud are talking down. I'll give it a go.
South Park dealt with this best, right? Like South Park did a marijuana episode.
Yeah, cheesing.
I remember the speech at the end where they're like, you know what? marijuana is not that dangerous for you, but it makes you okay with being bored. And you do that too long, and before, after a while, you realize you're not good at anything. And that was like the South Park speech. And I was like, oh, that seems like an accurate representation of the dangers of too much pot.
Yeah. Well, there definitely
dangers of too much ice cream
too much internet,
are much worse, though. The dangers of too much ice cream are much more shocking and disgusting. I would wager.
Maybe pot and ice cream go hand in hand.
Would you rather be addicted to pot or addicted to ice cream?
I would rather
probably.
be addicted
to
Yeah, pot for sure, because ice cream is gonna. You can hide your marijuana addiction as you're going out and about throughout the day.
Yeah.
Over time,
a little smart mouth and you're out of town.
Yes, a little smart mouth and you're good to go. Yeah, but you get addicted to ice cream, and people are gonna start noticing.
Yes,
like
that's true.
That's the difficult thing more than other addictions about food addiction is that you can't even lie and say like, yeah, it's been going better. Like, I'm making better decisions.
Yeah.
I'm really taking some time to cook and do meal prep. I'm very into meal prep now. And it's like, no, you're not. No, you're not. We can see you lie. You're lying to me.
5 years without too many calories, you can see, and it's like, no, that pendant don't mean shit, bro. You're 400 pounds. You're 400 pounds. I can see it.
If they're big enough, they lie. All the super big
what's the
guys
most
do.
annoying addiction? That's what we need to. Is it because I think it's
fidget
CrossFit.
spinners? Okay.
CrossFit is.
That's a very prevalent addiction, and it's under the guise of health, right? But it's very annoying.
Do you have a bad experience with a CrossFit person or people?
I've only had bad experiences with CrossFit addicts.
Like trying to proselytize to you?
No, they're just very proud of themselves. I don't know. I don't have anything beyond that.
They like their way, and they don't think yours is quite as good.
They always want to talk about like what they're doing. They always want to preach like Jehovah's Witnesses.
The way that they do pull-ups irrationally bothers me. When you watch, if you go on YouTube and type in like CrossFit pull-ups, they like basically turn their body into a worm and like wiggle their way up, like back and forth, back and forth. 3.
It's more like shaking.
5.
It's more like shaking than pull.
7. And it's like, no, none of those counted. You cheater. Like you're just using the energy of your legs to swing yourself up over and over.
Have you seen the video of the guy who counts them? There's a CrossFit guy, and he's doing the worm, and he's kind of got this rotation going on his pull-ups, right? And then, but the guy grabbed the video with his own voiceover, and he's like, 0. 0. 0. 0. 0. He's like, none of those are pull-ups. 0.
They had a push-up contest on the Howard Stern show where they challenged their audio engineer, who was a really out-of-shape guy. Stern basically bet him that I may have the numbers a little off, but Stern basically bet him that he couldn't do 10 push-ups, 15 push-ups, whatever it was. $10,000. He's like, you can't do it. Look at you. You can't. I know you can't.
It's a long time ago. I might have seen this. Was it Scott?
Yeah, Scott the
Scott the engineer.
Yeah.
So they're gonna see if he can do it, right? So he's working out for it's a short period of time, a few weeks, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4, something like that. And he's got this silly trainer who's got him all pumped up, and the trainer's like they're all chanting when he finally starts cranking him out. And so
oh no.
Like it's tumultuous. Everybody's screaming. There's noise everywhere. You can't tell what's going on. And Scott is cranking these push-ups out, but they're not real push-ups. He's not going all the way down. He's not coming all the way up. It's horse shit. And there's a referee there, but he's just some punk kid with a striped shirt and a whistle. Like,
of course.
And so he gets them done. He cranks out like 17 or whatever in the allotted time. And that was like enough to win the bet. But they're all like, nah, those didn't count. And he's like, I did them, they count. He's like, you go back on this bet. He's like screaming at Stern, like, don't you go back on your word. He like screams back at Stern. Everybody's like, whoa, whoa. And eventually Stern paid him off. But anybody who saw Scott the engineer cannot do 10 real push-ups, much less 17.
He had Casey demonstrate what a push-up was supposed to look like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had his trainer was like Radu, this weirdo that had him doing like ballet, and instead of just doing push-ups, like, okay, you can do 1 today. Let's see how many you can do tomorrow. He was just having him do like weird exercises to build up to it.
No.
There's no way to win when you try and bet your friends. Like, I bet you can't do 20 pull-ups. I bet you can't. And Navy SEAL. Someone on push-up 29 will start being like the Jesus Christ of analyzing mistakes and weaknesses. And he didn't quite straighten up there. That doesn't count. Again, like, there's no way to win those fitness bets, I've found.
What about you guys?
That is a good one.
Shucks. I used to say Joe Rogan. I don't know if he's my guy anymore. I feel like he's almost detached from everydayness. If they're like, he's kind of gotten to be an A-lister in my mind. And
he is. He's like
he seems compulsively middle ground to me. I don't know if that resonates with you guys, but it seems like he's just always right down the middle on everything.
He does tend to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't know for sure though, because I only watch the podcast of him where I notice the guests and I think it's good. But that
you don't get very much Rogan though, right? Like you get Rogan asking questions of the guests and not so much the guests asking questions of Rogan, which is what I would love. Like I oftentimes just don't care about his guest. I'm just watching it because I like Rogan a lot. And I find his life fascinating, like how he got to where he is and all the steps that he's taken along that career path. It's really impressive. And he's a bit of a renaissance man in the way that he excels at so many different kinds of entertainment, despite the sort of jock meatball kind of exterior that he might exude. He's a stand-up comedian, and he's a writer, and he's a stage performer, and he's also like the guy that does the announcing for the UFC, not because he's a color commentator and he's great at that, although he is, but because he's so steeped in it. You know, the guy he's got a black belt in Taekwondo, I think, black belt in Jiu-Jitsu, like lifelong commitment to martial arts, while doing all that other stuff I already mentioned. His last special was excellent. We all saw it. It's great.
Yeah. What freaks me out about Rogan is it appears that he's spent nearly his entire life doing what he feels like doing. And somehow that made him tens of millions of dollars, right? Most people, if they do what they feel like doing, are homeless. You know, most people spend most of their day doing shit they don't want to do. You know, they wake up, they drag their ass to work, past the dumpsters into the big concrete and glass building. I might be projecting a touch. And it's just like soul-sucking have to do, right? But his whole life appears to be want to do. And how he pulled that off is shocking.
He like surprises me with shit where like when like the ones I watched of him recently, the Jordan Peterson ones, those were really interesting, but it was mostly just the guest going on monologues because Joe knew to be quiet and let him answer his questions. But when Joe does talk, like it's annoying sometimes when he'll be like so spot on about something where he's like, yeah, you know, this XYZ about fucking feminism or this nonsense or politics is ridiculous. You'll be like, yeah, Joe, that's a really astute point. I don't usually think of you in that way. And then he'll be like, all right, well, I've been taking my mushroom genius sport medicine, and it turns out that crushed up cow feces with, you know, random bright colored forest shrooms is the way to true enlightenment. I just take that, I get in my salt bath tank, close it up, I get real high, and the world makes sense. And it's like, but now I don't know what to think about what you're saying. Like, because if someone told, like, if Trump came out and was like, I've given it a lot of thought. I laid in a bath for 6 hours, not a drop of light. Trust me, I do it many times. Ask anybody about it. I've decided not to bomb Syria. Like, even if that's what I wanted, like nothing to do with Syria, I'd be like, yeah, but that's not how I wanted to know that someone arrived at a conclusion.
Yeah,
He's
like
laying
when George
in a
Bush
bath alone
when
for
George
6
Bush
hours.
mentioned that he like talked to God and God told him he needed to go into Iraq or something. Or like when back during the campaign, as much as I like Ben Carson, you know, he's using the Bible to work out his tax plan, right? He's like, you know, and I'm just like, that's not. I really was hoping that you would have went to an economic journal of some kind, not the Old Testament. Fuck.
And then I think, God, I hope you're a liar.
Yeah.
it's like,
yeah, I hope you're not really like that. I don't know. I like Sleepy Black Doctor because for exactly the reason that he's not like in it anymore. So you can just kind of like look and be like,
now he's just running the housing and urban development.
Yeah,
doesn't he? I think he gets his own plane, doesn't he? Like, is that one of the jobs where he gets his own plane? I'm gonna check this.
The slowest plane they got.
It's a Cessna.
No, I don't need.
It's a paramotor.
It like runs on repurposed.
Flap deployed at all times, 40 miles an hour across the country.
It's one of those like bullshit go green, goes on repurposed vegetable oil from Thai restaurants.
I don't know. I don't have a perfect guest. I
would say like if I actually picked one, I think I might even be selfish. I'd probably pick some like big NHL former player or star that I wanted to talk to. And then the current one, I'd pick Vladimir Tarasenko for the Blues because I'm from St. Louis and it's my #1 team. But he's also Russian. And so I would not expect a high deal of reciprocation in many of the answers where it'd be like, Vladdy, what were you thinking when this happened on the game 6 against the Hawks 2015, we knocked them out in the first round. He'd be like, it is a team effort, and we do many things to repeat the question, please. And it'd be like, like, all right, thanks anyway. Yeah.
How do you get on those shows? How did you get on Dr. Phil? How did you get on? I forget the other one I saw today. But you were on
Tyra.
Yes.
Dr. Phil hit me up. So I was just a jackass on the internet with a very small following.
Mm-hmm.
And Dr. Phil was doing one of his House of Judgment things where he got like 5 lunatics to live in a house for a little bit. I didn't know anything about it, but they called me up out of nowhere and said, hey, come on the show. I happen to be doing the book. I happen to be releasing the book like in a couple months. So I said, yeah, all right, sure, that sounds good. I found out later that they had a guy, they wanted to get like a bunch of extreme viewpoints. So a woman who hated men, they had a chick who hated ugly people, but she wasn't that pretty. They had like a guy who hated everyone, who was like the most normal of the whole group. They had a black girl who hated black people, so she was like doing a Chris Rock stand-up routine nonstop in the house. And then they had a guy who hated women, but the guy they had in there was like a real asshole. Like, he really meant it.
Not like me. Not like me at all.
Totally different than me.
Real jerk.
No assholes around here.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
Abrasive, caustic.
You should see his website.
Yeah. So they called me up, and they had like a bunch of psychologists, I guess, call me and do these little interviews for like 2 hours a pop. And I could tell immediately that they were trying to feel me out to see if I was either A, lying and joking and full of shit, or B, whether it was okay if I was full of shit as long as I could keep it up. So they were like, because they're trying to make a TV show. Like, the last thing that they want is a guy to get in there and just start giggling like a little girl, and it's like, oh, it was just a big scam. So they did that for a while, and the shoot date was in like a week from when they called me, like 2 weeks from when they called me. They're like, oh yeah, we had a guy in here. He was a huge piece of shit. We kicked him out immediately when we found you. And they're like, you can do whatever you want when you're in here. We want you to live exactly like you live in your real life. It's like, okay. I lived in LA. Yeah, I thought like, oh, so I can like work. I can go to work if I want. And they're like, Dick, we want you to be you. I was like, all right. Looking back on it, I see how stupid it is that I would take that for anything but just lies, because they're producers. Like, I didn't know anything about Hollywood at all at the time. I was just some stupid software programmer working up in the boondocks of Valencia, California. But now, knowing what I know now, it's just producers just lie constantly. And all they want to do is make the TV program. But I got in there, and then it was just give us your computer, give us your phone, give us everything you got. And we're gonna fuck with you for a week, and try to make our narrative. So at the end, like, you could see their questions as we went through the week, going from asking things to set you up for like softball incendiary statements, like, so what do you think the worst part about women is? Like, that was day one. I was like, oh man, I got this. And then day 5, it was like, what would you tell your mother if she were here? And it was like, what would you tell like this? And it's like, oh my God, like this actually, I know this is just like a joke, but this is getting kind of hard to not, because I know how you guys are going to cut this. You're going to cut this like you won. And I would rather kill myself than look like Dr. Phil. Like, I got to show this, fuck the world. I got to show this to like my dad and my friends. And if it looks like Dr. Phil won, I am going to get made fun of for the rest of my life. Like, you're not getting this out of me. Like, so it was like being a politician, like just lying and reframing and twisting everything.
I reject the premise of your question. Let me tell you let me set you straight about women.
My mom's kind of a dude.
It was so stupid.
She did that. Never mind.
But it was still people trying to make a stupid reality TV show. So they got their clips out of it.
How quickly was the illusion shattered, or did you have any illusions going into it that it would be honest at all?
I'd never watched the program. I never watched the show. I thought I underestimated how many people it takes to make like bullshit television. It's like a lot of people, like dozens of people. They set you on Dr. Phil. They set you up in things where they have like you versus your opposite. Like this is therapy, by the way. It's you versus your opposite, and then they've got a one-way mirror, and on the other side of that mirror, they've got psychiatrists and producers just watching you, and like every once in a while, they'll come out and throw out an incendiary topic for you to talk about. And like the whole house, the whole Dr. Phil house is like a fun house where every part of every wall can be pulled away, and then like a $300,000 camera will appear and start tracking you from a guy. Like you've never seen this. You're talking with somebody like normal, and then it'll be like shoop, and this like guy. Where the fuck did you come from? Like, what are you? That was a weird. The whole thing was surreal. Down to like the last day when everybody else was fixed because everybody else caved. Like they march you from place to place. They force you to repeat shit until they've got the story that they want. But I was the only one that wouldn't do it. I don't know why. Just because I had a book. Just because I didn't want my friends to make fun of me. That's what drove me. Not joking. That's what drove me through the whole thing. Is like when you get out of this, man, you can't tell these, like, you can't narc on yourself. You got to keep this going because your friends are gonna make fun of you when you get out of this. Like, you got into this, you gotta bullshit your way out of it. They can't do anything to you. Just find that little hateful center in you and hold on to it tight and let them take everything else. They're gonna take it, deny it, but just keep repeating the thing. But
this is the mantra from V for Vendetta. Anybody else remembering this?
Yeah, is it? I'm remembering Last Man Standing with Bruce Willis when he's getting beat. That's what I was like. And I like to my hubris, I brought in DVDs I thought I was gonna watch while I was in the house. Like, I brought in pajamas, and then you get in there. Of course, there's no DVD player. There's not even a fucking window because it's a casino of emotion. That's it. There's nothing in there. No TV. No music. Nothing. There's one book to read in the Dr. Phil house, and it's How to Lose Weight by Dr. Phil McGraw. It's a fucking cookbook written by the fattest man on television. The whole fucking house. And dude, 6 days later, when it was time to leave, and they played the producers, God bless them, it was time to leave. They played Here Comes the Sun, and when music hit my first time, I thought I was having an auditory orgasm. Like, it was like I had never felt. Like, when I watch people defect from North Korea and I see them cry and break down, I'm like, I fucking know what you're feeling, you bitch. Like, I've been there too. I know exactly what you feel like. That was the height of my hubris, but the producers come out of nowhere to try to break you down for the entire time. I forget what the question was. It was a weird experience, and it's like, that's how the sausage is made. The Dr. Phil house.
That's hilarious.
That's incredible.
Really, I bet they really had to. Like, I know you forged ahead and didn't give in with it, but I bet they had an actual internal meeting after that where they were like, all right, we got to make sure that nobody pulls this ever again.
No, let me tell you, first of all, they made money on the whole thing. So if anybody's having a meeting, we need to get idiots like this. Like, that's after that, they started going for lunatics, like the Cash Me Outside chick. Like, after me, they started trying to get fucked up stuff because they're like, this idiot, it doesn't matter if he's fake. Like, everybody's watching to hear this fucking moron make an ass of himself. They sent out this questionnaire before we got into the house, and it was like, It was the dumbest of all the questionnaires I've ever taken for work or anything in my life. It was the dumbest questionnaire I've ever seen in my life.
Mm-hmm.
It was like name, address, what's your favorite color, what's your greatest fear, and I remember filling it out like, what do you mean? What's my greatest fear? Why do you guys like? What is this? What is the value of this? Question number 3: who would you hate to have dinner with the most? What would you most hate to? I was like, oh, okay. I know what this is. This is like do my job for me. The producers want you to make their show for. Sure enough, I put shit like heights I'm afraid of, spiders I'm afraid of, and I found out later that they had this whole skydiving thing planned for me. Dr. Phil had a skydiving day planned for me that they wanted to make me skydive so they could get footage of me pussing out and like loop that in with the rest of, I don't know, the psychotherapy. But they changed it at the last moment because they said he will not chicken out. Like he's not going to do, this guy's too fucked. This guy's he's too deep into character. He's
committed.
Do a skydiving mission because he'll just do it. He'll just do it and
Would
make
you
it
have?
funny. Oh, yeah.
Yeah, they were right.
That motivation of not wanting to be mocked endlessly by your friends
Strong.
is more powerful than love.
Oh, it's
more
worth at least
powerful than
9
hate.
pounds so far.
It will do so many things. Just the thought of like, am I going to get shit on by my friends forever? Yes. All right. Well, then I need to make a lifelong change here.
My dad, my sister would have made fun of me forever for being out of my element, for being in over my head. It would have been way too embarrassing.
How many brothers and sisters do you have?
I just have one sister.
Sister?
It's too many.
How did Tyra compare to Dr. Phil from that perspective? Was it pretty
Tyra's
much the
functionally
same shit?
retarded. Tyra Banks, I love her. She's beautiful, but she's got in her audience, she's got 3 people holding up gigantic poster boards with like interesting questions to ask her guests because she can't do it on her own, and she ignores all of them. So you have the worst television on the planet. Like I'm sitting there because by the time I got to Tyra, I was like, oh, let's go, bitch. Here we go. I know how to do this. I just knocked Dr. Phil's ass out. And by the way, on Dr. Phil, I got a mysterious call from a guy who worked on the show. He called me up and like right before Christmas. He's like, hey, is this Dick? Like, yeah, man, who the fuck is this? He's like, hey, man, I'm not supposed to get your number. I'm not supposed to have your number, but I'm a guy. I was a PA on Dr. Phil. I was one of the camera guys. I got your number, and I just want to say, when you were arguing with Phil, like in the back, it was like, because we all fucking hate him. It was like watching the Super Bowl, like watching you guys argue. We were like, yeah, every time you nailed him with a point. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay, cool. So I'm going into Tyra thinking it's going to be an environment like that. But it's like, but she's very sweet, I guess. I don't know. But looking at, so I'm going in there and I'm reading all the cards that they're trying to show her are the questions to ask. Like, ask him this. This will really fuck him up. Ask him this. I'm like, okay, I got an answer for that. I got an answer for that. I got a funny answer for that. I hope you answer this. And she's just pulling questions completely out of her ass. Like, oh, what kind of girl do you like? And I'm like, what the fuck? What kind of question is that? All of them. I don't. Tyra, you're really. This is TV for you. Like I just wanted to stand up in the middle and go. This is television. This is your. This is what you're doing with your name. I mean, what are you even doing? You're taking up You're taking up an hour spot from who? Doing nothing. Doing nothing. That's what you ask. This is horse shit. This is horse shit. All these people here are relying on you to make good television.
I wish you'd said that. This is good TV.
I should have said that.
Yeah. They probably would have edited it out.
They probably wouldn't have aired that.
Yeah, that part might not have made it on.
But 6 months later, you get a call from some random PA. Dude, when you told Tyra.
Nah, she's probably got a team of sycophants over there.
She might.
The weird network of sycophants is crazy. But, they're producers, so they hop around from show to show. I talked to a bunch of them after the fact, after they moved on from Phil. Because they got a high turnover rate on that show.
That seems like such a ham-handed, silly way to like intro you with questions. Back to the Dr. Phil thing you were saying of like, what's your biggest fear? Who do you not want to have dinner with? Like, how retarded do you have to be to not know you're being set up with that? Like, if you put Like day one, you'd walk in, they'd be like, "Oh, surprise to chauvinist Dick Masterson! He's gonna go have a dinner in the Snake House at the zoo with Hillary Clinton." It's like, oh, his biggest nightmare. What a rage thing! He didn't see this coming. Like, no, of course.
Like usual, you're overestimating people because two of the chicks they didn't want to have dinner with a nudist because it would be so reprehensible to them. A nudist showed up. They lost their minds and they sued CBS about it for like fault. They won and got the episodes wiped from the earth. So I have a bounty of $1,000 for anybody who can reproduce those and find those episodes from me, because CBS had to like legally remove them from syndication. So yeah, basically everybody fell for it.